All right, and welcome back to another episode of JR Takes. As always, Ryan and I bringing you the latest Seattle sports news, and this isn't just any episode of JR Takes. This is actually the start of Season 3. If you guys remember, about 2 years ago was the day when Russel Wilson was traded to the Broncos for a plethora of picks and a couple of players, and now, 2 years later, he's a Pittsburgh Steeler. Ryan, what do you make of all this?
It's crazy because just looking back at it, I remember our very first episode, we were kind of bitching and moaning about the fact that we traded our franchise quarterback.
The sky was falling.
The sky was falling. You know, we had committed to our really old coach over our quarterback, and it seemed very counterintuitive to what we thought we should be doing as an organization at the time. And fast forward 2 years, and the Broncos stint was an absolute legendarily bad disaster. And now he's playing for a vet minimum deal and competing for a starting job, presumably with Kenny Pickett. I think he'll win that job.
Yeah,
but
quotations around the word competing, because the eye test will tell you Russell Wilson's going to win that job.
Russell Wilson, last year, on one of his lesser seasons in his career so far in the NFL, threw more touchdowns in that one season than Kenny Pickett has in his whole career at this point. So I agree, yeah.
He also, if you remember the game against Buffalo when he threw that touchdown in the corner of the end zone to Courtland Sutton, that was what, Next Gen Stats' most accurate pass thrown in the entire
Since they started
season.
doing that, yeah.
So you can't tell me that Russell Wilson is washed because he struggled for 2 seasons. Well, the first season with Denver, that was almost an anomaly, I felt like. But last year, I felt he played well, and I get why the Broncos want to let him go so they can get ahead of the game and eat the money now rather than have it last for another season next year. But I think the Steelers are in good hands. I think that he's exactly what they need to get the ball to their offensive weapons, because we've always talked about Russell's always been efficient when you give him weapons and give him, pieces to succeed in his game. Mm-hmm. And I think the Steelers are a perfect mold for that. And they've got Mike Tomlin there. He's been in the league, hasn't had a losing season. All of this, all these tropes about Mike Tomlin, they're said about him for a reason. And I still think he's got it. I mean, you have the divas in the locker room like Pickens, but I think Russell Wilson is going to bring a leadership to that locker room that maybe they haven't seen for a while.
Yeah, and just look at what they were able to accomplish once they made the switch to Mason Rudolph, who will probably land on a roster as a backup this season, but is definitely no Russell Wilson. They whooped our ass at home. They went on they made the fucking playoffs. So it's not like this is a bad roster that he's going to. This is a roster with one of the best pass rushers in the league in TJ Watt. Excellent defense, a head coach that in a lot of ways is kind of like an AFC version of Pete Carroll, strong defensive-minded, run the ball, kind of like run-heavy offense. And that's exactly what Russell Wilson can excel in. And under Arthur Smith, the one thing the Falcons were good at, and what Arthur Smith was good at as a coordinator, was play action. And that's Russell Wilson's bread and butter. And it always seemed like Sean Payton and Russell Wilson were just not a good mix at all for what Sean Payton wants out of a quarterback. I mean, look at Drew Brees. He was, people kind of forget this, but he's a bit of a dink and dunker. That's never been Russell Wilson's game. It's never going to be his game. So if you use his strengths appropriately, and I still think they exist, he showed last year he still has that in him. Not to the degree that he had, in his prime years in Seattle, but still, like top 10 at the things he's good at. So it's going to be really interesting to see. I'll be shocked if Kenny Pickett is starting day one. I think that will probably be the end of the road for his career if that happens, if he can't beat Kenny Pickett in a fair competition. But I don't see that happening. I don't want to see that happening. And one thing that's weird about it, too, is now he's played for 2 teams, the Seahawks.
We played in the Super Bowl. I thought about that, too. Yeah.
So hopefully he doesn't go to the Patriots next.
Do we know? So he signed a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
And how much money was
$1.2 million.
Yeah.
So-
But the thing is, the Broncos are still paying the other $38 million
That's
of his contract. So Wilson is still getting, an absurd amount of money this
But the
season.
Steelers are getting him for like a remarkable
Yeah,
deal.
I think people are making memes about this move by the Steelers because they're fucking stupid and are just like, oh, the only memory I have of football is the last 18 months, so I think Russell Wilson is bad. It's like, no, this is actually, if it works out, this could be one of the crazier moves we've ever seen at the NFL in the quarterback position.
Yeah, and to kind of go off of that, remember all the ugly games we had to watch the Steelers play because their quarterback play was abysmal. I think that's a perfect setting for Russell Wilson because your defense is going to keep you in every game. That's how he played in Seattle when we were good. Defense kept us in every game. I think we had a stretch where we won or we didn't lose by a score.
Yeah, for like 3 years.
Yeah, so I really think that Russell, this is really going to set him up perfectly to just let him be himself, play his game, and the defense will figure it out. And I mean, he'll keep you in a lot of games. Is my stance.
He does not commit a lot of turnovers. He takes a lot of sacks. That's the biggest negative to his game. So the biggest thing I think the Steelers have got to do offensively is figure out their offensive line because I know it wasn't great last season. But they should be handing the ball off 25 times a game with Russell Wilson and just doing a ton of bootlegs. A lot of moon balls to Pickens. He's a great contested catch guy. And Deontay Johnson, he gets open really well. He hasn't been like a dynamic receiver necessarily, but if they hang on to him, that's a really good 2-receiver set for the Steelers. And
not to mention they have those 2 running backs back there. And Najee Harris, he's kind of slowed down a little bit. He had the start of his career was, when he was top 10 running back in the league. But I think a part of that might have to do with, again, the quarterback play. When you don't have a guy, I mean, look at the Giants. When you don't have a quarterback that can pose a viable threat to passing the ball downfield, Saquon Barkley they're going to stack the box every play, and he's going to do nothing. And same deal kind of with Najee Harris, I think, is when you have Kenny Pickett, he's not going to beat you with his arm. So stack the box, stop Najee Harris. Now you have Russ back there. He's a lot more of a threat to roll out and find his open receiver and extend plays.
Yeah, and he's still really good at when he escapes pressure, making those crazy 50, 60-yard passes downfield. So if nothing else, the Steelers are going to be 10 times more watchable this season, I hope. We'll see. I mean, this is obviously coming from 2 people that watched 10 years of greatness from Russell Wilson, so definitely biased in our opinions on it. But I think the rest of the NFL fandom out there is biased against him because of how the last 2 years have gone. And really not even the last year, but the first year with Hackett. And if you take out the Hackett games and just go Russell Wilson's performance in Denver post that firing, he pretty much played like average Russell Wilson football, really good touchdown to interception ratio, passer rating, yards per attempt, all that. It's like it was just that stretch with Hackett there that was like, how did you go from the guy you were to bottom 3 quarterback in the league? Well,
and it started a domino effect because now Jerry Jeudy has been traded to the Browns. So it's not like Russell Wilson was all at fault. There were guys not doing their jobs, and Jerry Jeudy was one of them. He was supposed to be an elite receiver. That's why he was taken, I think it was 14th in the draft or something like that.
Yeah, he's a high pick out of Alabama, and if you watched his Alabama tape, you thought he was going to be like the next Julio.
I thought he was going to be like a Devontae Adams guy, a really amazing route runner who could just get open and get you yards down the field. But it really hasn't panned out the way a lot of people thought, and that's why Jeudy is now a Cleveland Brown.
And traded for a couple day 3 picks at that, too. It's kind of wild, but from the Browns' perspective, they have a receiver set now in Elijah Moore, Jerry Jeudy, and Amari Cooper that they got for, pennies.
And David Njoku, who decided he wanted to be a pro and a.
Shit, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, definitely a very like low opportunity cost for 3 receivers that are super talented. So it's unfortunate they have the Predator throwing the ball to them, and he's sucked ass ever since he got off the massage table and started playing football again. Because the Browns have so much talent. It's going to be really interesting in general to just see what happens with the AFC North this year, because that division is loaded.
Yeah, I think time will tell if the Browns will follow suit with the Broncos and cut their losses, but the problem with that is they have to pay him all that money anyway.
There's no escaping it.
It's a different situation because it's not like there's dead money and all that. All of it is guaranteed. So good job, Browns.
They married themselves to that fucker.
And you know what? That's what happens when you have 2 decades of not being able to find a franchise quarterback with I don't know how many first-round number 1 picks they had, but it was more than 1.
It's more than like 6. I couldn't name the exact number, but let's go all the way back to Brady Quinn if you want.
We can go. Well, I don't want to.
Yeah,
Never
let's
mind.
not. Let's move on. Actually,
yeah. So I guess.
You want to talk about the combine at all?
Yeah, or we could do Seahawks and then combine.
Okay.
Yeah, because the Seahawks have made some notable cuts, necessary cuts at that.
Colby, you want to pull up that field goals list real quick?
Oh, yes.
And
yeah, just scroll down a little bit. There you go.
It is. Cool. Yeah, but we've made some necessary cuts over pretty much the month that JR Takes took off and got rid of Jamal Adams, the head case that he was during season, and Will Dissly, Quandre Diggs, Brian Monet, Nick Bellore. Those are some notable names. Nick Bellore I was kind of surprised by cutting our special teams captain. I mean, maybe there's a restructure, or not a restructure, but maybe there's a signing of him for lesser money down the road. I don't know what exactly the market is looking like for a guy like Nick Bellore.
It's a pretty niche market because he's a fullback / linebacker that basically just plays special teams and is 33. Mm-hmm. So when I saw going into this offseason that he had a cap hit of nearly $3 million, I was like, oh, he's getting cut. I will kind of be annoyed if we don't, just for the financials alone. Jamal Adams, we bit the whole dead money hit immediately. So it wasn't a post-June 1st cut, so we're taking all that $20 million in dead cap this offseason. But like the Russell Wilson thing, sometimes you just got to move on from a bad contract, and that's what we're doing there. I think Quandre is probably the most surprising on that list because, you look at a Will Dissly and a Nick Bellore, and you look at what they were – or not a Nick Bellore, Brian Monet. You look at the money they were making due to make this season, it was like that makes no sense for the production you're getting out of them. But Quandre was still playing really well in coverage overall. Never was a great tackler, but didn't have a good tackling season last year anyways. So I'm not crying about cutting 32-year-old Quandre Diggs or however old he is, but definitely wouldn't have mind hanging on to him. I guess we're just totally trying to move forward at the safety position and also the tight end position, because right now the only tight end we have on the roster is Tyler Mabry.
And Noah Fant is an unrestricted free agent?
Yeah, and as of 4:30 Pacific time, he hasn't been signed anywhere to my knowledge, so maybe we're trying to bring him back, and maybe that's why we let the other two go, because we haven't touched on it yet, but our boy Colby Parkinson signed a big deal with the Rams, which I had heard some people speculating he might get big money in the offseason, but I just kind of was like, nobody knows who Colby Parkinson is. We can probably keep him for cheap, like 3 years, $12 million or something. But he got 16.5 with potential to make 20 with the Rams, which I'm like, whoa.
What's our tight end game now? If we got rid of Will Dissly, Colby Parkinson...
Yeah, it's literally just Tyler Mabry, who has a future reserve contract with us, and that's it on our roster currently. We have no safeties with starting experience on the roster, and we are allegedly letting Bobby Wagner walk. So we got some work to do here for sure.
And Julian Love is not returning?
Julian Love is still under contract.
Okay.
Are
I
we
guess
gonna try to like draft a rookie tight end, or what's our?
there's a chance that Brock Bowers falls to us at 16. It wouldn't be my favorite thing we could do with that pick, but it would be. I would be pretty excited if that happened because he's like, probably the best tight end prospect to come out in the last couple of years here, besides the guy in the Falcons that gets the ball never. I can't think of his name right now.
Kyle Pitts.
There you go. So yeah, it's going to be interesting because, as often happens with John Schneider, we're a day deep into free agency now, and we've done jack shit, but we've made so many cuts here and presumably are letting so many people walk that there's just so many questions to fill out on this roster still. And you would guess that a lot of these positions we're looking at the draft to supplement, but I mean, a bunch of the top safeties on the free agent market, which we're not getting crazy money, are already gone after one day. And, Parkinson's gone. Will Disley's already signed another deal with the was the Commanders? Where did he go?
I don't know, actually. But, yeah, Will Disley.
I can't remember who Will Disley signed with. Maybe it was the Chargers? It was the Chargers. So both of our tight ends going to L.A.
I personally am happy about the Quandre releasing because I'm just sick and tired of everyone complaining about the fact that we pay our most money to our safety position, which is, ideally it's kind of, fourth in line of great importance on a good defense. Like, you have so many other positions coming in contact with the ball before you even get to the safeties. So
yeah, it's probably defensive tackle, pass rush, corner, then maybe safety, or you could even say outside linebacker before safety. I don't know.
Exactly. So as much of a bummer, and I liked Quandre. I thought he was a good guy, great player. I did see so many missed tackles last year that you combine that with the money we're paying him, his age sort of, and it all makes sense.
Mm-hmm. He was a great player for us.
He was.
But, we had, 5 seasons with him? 4.5, I guess. He came in halfway through 2019. But
yeah.
He was always a ball hawk in the secondary, which was great. Didn't show up as much this last season, which we definitely sorely missed. But overall, I think we got him for a day 3 pick in 2019. So that was a great move. It never materialized into anything more than a first-round playoff exit, unfortunately. So
right. And then we also cut ties with Brian Monet. That was a little surprising. Just because
he was due $5 million though. So
yeah.
It's
just anytime we're getting rid of a position player who that's been a position of need over the past few seasons, it always just kind of oh, okay, well, I hope that we can find a replacement because we need weight on our D-line.
Yeah. It's we have a lot of holes to fill for sure right now. I think the Seahawks, I heard today, have the least amount of players under contract currently of any team in the league.
Wow.
And I didn't check if that was true, but I buy it because we've only lost players so far this offseason.
Yeah, we kind of looked at what the Mariners did and we're like, oh shit, write that down. And now we're just copying them and getting rid of all of our players.
So do we have I wonder what our cap space is compared to last year.
So I don't remember what last year's was. I think it was substantially less than what we have right now, but we freed up millions and millions of dollars with the moves we've made. Pending what exactly we get back from the Tyler Lockett restructure, which we did, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Also the Geno restructure.
Oh, so we got Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, he's not being cut. That's for sure. But we are sitting at about close to $58 million in cap space right now. So It's not like we don't have the money to make a splash signing. My guess as to what we're doing right now is John Schneider is in a room with Leonard Williams, and they're trying to figure out how much we have to pay him because they're not letting that guy leave Seattle. And unfortunately, we didn't get that move done before today, and a couple guys like Christian Wilkins, for example, from Miami, just got a mega deal from
none other than the Raiders.
Interesting day for the Raiders.
The Raiders are really They're trying to make some moves.
Yeah, the
They
Raiders
lost Josh Jacobs, but I
they
mean,
gained a Gardner.
We're gonna talk
They
about
did gain
Gardner
Gardner.
Minshew. Oh, I gotta put him up on the big screen here. Let's see what's going
Yeah,
on. with
I'm happy
Gardner.
for Gardner. I think this is a well-deserved shot at a real starting job, and I mean, he can move the ball. I think he's just gotten a bad rap because he's
played on really bad teams.
really bad teams, and I mean, every place he's gone since Jacksonville has kind of been a really bad setup for him because he's either coming in to back up the young franchise quarterback, or now going to the Raiders. Who does he have to compete with? Jimmy Garoppolo and Aiden O'Connell.
And it's a 2-year. It's a 2-year deal, $25 million.
That's significant money for a guy, unless you're, expecting him to be your starter. Granted, the cap has gotten so inflated that $25 million now over 2 years is not as much as it was 10 years ago.
Right.
But still, you could have signed Jacoby Brissett for 2/3 of that amount, you would guess, or maybe even less.
Yeah. So I'm really stoked for Gardner. I hope that he can have a good season and keep the job, because I think a lot of us have been saying, especially the Cougs of the Seattle fans, just want him to get a shot at a real starting job, because he played well his rookie year for Jacksonville. It's just Trevor Lawrence came in, and what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You got to give Trevor the starting job. So,
although Trevor has not been that great so far in his NFL career, in my opinion, I think he's really good potentially, but it just hasn't all been put together yet.
And there's a guy gunning for his job now in Mac Jones. He was traded for a 6th-round pick, which I at first thought, man, they really didn't have to give up anything for Mac Jones, because who was it a couple years ago that got traded for a 4th? I cannot remember. It'll come to me. But Mac Jones, because I think it's because they aren't committed to having to pay him after the 5th-year option. They can just have him for this year and then release him if he, remains the backup all year, because they're not going to pay a backup $20 million or whatever he's owed because of that first-round money.
The 5th-year option cap hit is pretty big, I think, for a first-rounder.
But I just got to say, the Jags are going to jag, and, I mean, bringing in Mac Jones and Gabe Davis has got to be the most Jacksonville Jaguar thing I think I've ever seen.
It's hilarious because they might get Calvin Ridley back, who's basically just Gabe Davis 2 from a fantasy perspective. As someone who had both players last year, such boomer bust receivers.
Yeah. So and Jacksonville, they just love overpaying for receivers that are just not very good.
Yeah, remember the Christian Kirk contract?
And the Zay Jones.
They're all mid.
They are all mid.
For real.
But yeah, the Jags are gonna jag. I mean, that has to be expected. And then I don't know. Do we want to kind of go into the free agency market?
Let's just hit another couple splash moves that happened today. While we're on the topic of overpay, Kirk Cousins, coming off of a torn Achilles at age 35, is getting $45 million a year for 4 years. I understand, Falcons, you want better quarterback play than fucking Desmond Ridder and Marcus Mariota and Taylor Heineke, but I would have rather taken Russell Wilson at league minimum and just, used your cap space for, more players on defense or something than pay Kirk Cousins that much money. Yeah, I mean, Kirk Cousins is going to retire as one of the most paid NFL players ever. One playoff win in his career to this point.
I wonder if that has anything to, I mean, I'm sure it does, but the Tom Brady effect of playing till he's 45, I feel like every team's front office just has a new perception on how long a quarterback can play for. And I think, again, Tom Brady is an outlier.
Everything about his career
besides,
is an outlier.
Vinny Testaverde has played that late into their career.
Yeah, and Vinny Testaverde was a backup for the last 8 years of his career or something like
so
that.
it's
Maybe even longer.
I think all these quarterbacks getting big money, and I think maybe Aaron Rodgers has something to do with that too. It's just we're going to pay all these quarterbacks into their late 30s, early 40s. I mean, look at Peyton Manning. He was 37 when they played us in the Super Bowl. 2 years later, he couldn't throw the ball 45 yards.
Yeah, that's not an exaggeration either. Like, it was the 2015 Peyton Manning, the fact that he won a Super Bowl is a testament to that defense because it was bad.
Which, I mean, I think we should take credit for as Seahawks fans. We embarrassed them so badly in the Super Bowl that they had to go out and get one of the best defenses ever. Behind ours, of course.
Yeah, significantly behind ours,
Yeah.
if we're being objective, which we
Yes.
are always on this podcast. But yeah, no, I think Tom Brady just broke a lot of people's brains because it is way more common for a quarterback to suck after age 34, not even like late 30s, but like early mid 30s, than it is for them to be great past age 38 and beyond. Like, I don't know, like just an example that comes to the top of my head, like Troy Aikman retired at like 33 or 34.
Yeah.
So many quarterbacks, if you like Cam Newton was worthless at like 29. Granted,
it could have also something to do with the fact that quarterbacks aren't getting hit like they used to. So you could see why Troy Aikman would retire at 33. The guy was like covered in mud like every game I've seen a highlight of him playing.
yeah.
And simultaneously throwing interceptions. But
It does make you kind of give some more respect to the old school guys that played a long time because they were getting fucking clobbered.
yeah, it just brutal. And speaking of getting clobbered no more, Saquon to the Eagles. We could finally see a productive Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, what is he doing on the screen?
We got him on the screen.
That sucks.
Yeah, I forget what Saquon's contract was. I don't think it was like crazy expensive.
I think I can find it out.
You mind pulling that up, Jamie? Colby?
We got it. Ooh, wait.
3 years, 37.75. So yeah, it's basically like 12, 13 million a year for like a top 5 potential running back. That's not that bad. I mean, a fucking mid-tier pass rusher these days is like 26 million a year. So
Colby, will you pull up what Devin Singletary is getting paid?
I want to say it's like 16 million or something like that.
That is insane. And
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, this is who they're replacing Saquon with. Devin Singletary, Mr. 800 yards, 4 touchdowns a year.
So it looks like it's a rumor of 3 years.
Oh, it's no rumor.
Oh, it's
It's
out.
real.
Okay, 16 million. Yeah. Well, there you go.
Yeah, so enjoy, Big Blue. You got Danny Jones handing off to Devin Singletary. Apparently, Russell Wilson interviewed with the Giants, too, and they left without a deal. So,
wow. Yeah, and then we've also got Josh Jacobs going to the Packers. That one was a little bit of a surprise to me. But
I think they gave him a lot of money, too. You mind pulling up the Josh Jacobs contract real quick, Colby?
Oh, yeah.
Because I think this was substantially more than what Saquon got paid. So let's see. Saquon's at about $13 million a year, let's say. Looks like Josh Jacobs.
Oh, I think right here.
Yeah, 4 for 48. I guess that's like 12 million. But I mean, it's about the same per year.
because you got to assume they're not going to pick up the 4th year.
Yeah. So I guess it's just when it gets reported and you just take a glance at it, it looks like a bunch of money. But when you go by year basis, probably isn't going to see even half of that.
Mm-hmm.
But still, it's interesting that they, want to pay him that much, but want to let Aaron Jones go. Just seems a little weird. I bet Aaron Jones is signed within the next couple of days here, though, because even though he's getting older, I think he's part of that, famous 2017 draft class, I believe, of running backs. But he still looks like he's got some juice in those legs.
And not to mention, Josh Jacobs, I feel like has a lot of miles on his legs. He's been in the year, his whole rookie contract, and now going to another team. And he played well for the Raiders, but I feel like they
fed him the ball a lot.
They fed him the ball a lot. And especially, their quarterback play hasn't been stellar. And so you turn to Josh Jacobs to carry the workload. And I don't know, maybe the Raiders, who are even their running backs right now?
They got Zamir White, who they drafted kind of high for a running back a few years ago. They could make a run at Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is clearly not being brought back to the Titans because they signed Tony Pollard, which I don't really get that, to be honest.
Tony Pollard has like the worst season of his career. Shows that he's no longer explosive, and then they're like, "Oh no, we want him." Sign him up.
He kind of did the same thing as Alexander Madison, but
So
they're like,
Derrick
that's
Henry
what we want.
is like not officially off the Titans, but it's
Well, I think he's just an unrestricted free agent right now.
really
Yeah.
That's
I want to.
I wouldn't be surprised if he went to Dallas.
I've heard rumors of that happening.
That sounds like a Jerry Jones mouth-watering signing right there.
It kind of is. I would say he would look pretty cool in the Dallas uniform.
Yeah, he would, with his giant hair sticking out of the back of his helmet.
I hate the Cowboys, but they got nice uniforms, so I will give them that.
Yeah.
And it would help Dak out. What else did we have today? A lot of defensive moves it's kind of such a flurry. I can't really think of too many. We brought up the Chris Wilkins move earlier. You brought up the trade to the Giants with Brian Burns. The 49ers cut Eric Armstead.
I saw that because he wasn't willing to restructure his deal.
Yeah,
that makes me kind of wonder. I wonder if there'll be any other Niner players who feel that way and won't want to restructure because they got a lot of mouths to feed on that defense.
Yeah, and they're going to be coming up on having to pay, like Debo and Ayuk at the same time and McCaffrey. Like they got about one more year of this well-oiled machine that is their roster before the cap hell.
Not to
ensues.
mention having to eventually, if you guys are going to commit to him, paying Brock Purdy.
Yeah. If he puts up a couple more seasons like he did this last year, you got to pay him like $45-50 million a year.
Yeah.
Which that's been the one bright side of us not drafting a quarterback for so many years that's taken off or even had one good season on the rookie deal because, people can say whatever they want about Geno's play. I think Geno is a good quarterback, like top 12 quarterback, I'll say.
Right.
Getting Geno at $25 million a year is a really team-friendly deal. When you look at like how much Tua, how much Jalen Hurts,
we just talked about Kirk Cousins. He's getting $20 million more than that.
Yeah, I would rather have Geno at 25 than Kirk. I would rather have Geno at 25 than Kirk at 25. To be honest, I think they're pretty comparable, but I think Geno has a higher ceiling than Kirk. Personally,
I think Geno's also more of an athlete than Kirk.
Yeah,
but not by a great margin, but I do think Geno's
got
is
some
more
wheels.
mobile than people give him credit for.
And even though Geno's 32, 33, he doesn't have a ton of miles on his body because he was a backup for so long. So it's not like he's been, beat up for 10 years.
Right.
Like he's a young 33, I will say.
he is 34.
He's the Raheem Mostert of quarterbacks. We'll put it that way.
That kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. You have any other free agent moves you want to talk about? We're only a day into this thing, so by the time we boot up the next episode, there will be a lot more moves to talk about, I'm sure.
Well, it looks like, as we mentioned before, Austin Eckler to the Commanders seems a very Commander-ish move to sign a guy that's sort of,
what are they doing
their
over
best
there?
football is behind him. They also signed Zach Ertz, so I guess I don't know what they're trying to do. Maybe surround a young quarterback with veteran weapons is my guess.
Yeah,
But
do you think they're going to just draft a rookie and throw him out there day one, or let your boy Sam Howell cook a little longer?
I heard rumors. I heard trade rumors regarding Sam Howell potentially to the Broncos. I don't know if the Broncos would do that. I feel like they might be a little.
What do they have to give up?
I think they have a little PSD from the Russell Wilson trading, so I personally don't see that coming to fruition, but I would like to see them give Sam another shot. Obviously, I'm biased because he's on my fantasy team, but also it's like you're going to bring in another guy. He's probably going to have a similar season that Sam did, maybe win a game or two more, but I don't know. It seems like a little premature to give up on him so soon, but I think they will draft a quarterback.
Yeah, they're probably going to get Drake May is my guess.
Yeah.
But the thing, I don't know. I see the talent with Drake May. I guess if we want to just switch gears to the combine here,
Sure.
I don't like that Drake May thinks he's so good that he doesn't need to throw at the combine. I get it with Caleb Williams. I still don't like it, but Caleb Williams is the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck, in my opinion. So if he doesn't work in the NFL, it will be shocking. But Drake May, I think there's a lot more questions And like I saw this thing the other day where Chris Sims made his like a rookie quarterback like post combine rankings, and he had Drake May as his quarterback 6 behind Penix, Bo Nix, J.J. McCarthy, Jaden Daniels, and obviously Caleb Williams. And Drake May retweeted that with like a laughing emoji. And it's like, dude, you're like fucking 21 years old. Like, I don't know. I just think like
we got some sensitive players that read headlines and, can't take a bit of criticism, I guess, in today's day and age of football.
And maybe I'm just like overanalyzing a harmless tweet, but to me, I just feel like you think you're hot shit and you're kind of immature, and I don't know, you haven't proven shit so far, and it's not like you won at North Carolina. The only other North Carolina QBs in the NFL are Sam Howell and Trubisky, so your school doesn't have a good track record of it. I don't know. I'm not sold on Drake May.
I'm not sold on him either. He started off this past season in college football pretty good. I think they were 6-0, 7-0, and then it just kind of sort of fell off, made a lot of bad decisions, I guess you could say, which that's kind of a knock on him. He forces things, which can be a good thing and a bad thing as far as his notes were concerned in the combine. But again, he didn't throw at the combine, which brings me to the guy I want to talk about who did throw at the combine. Michael Penix placed pretty much every ball he threw beautifully and exactly where the receiver needed to be, whether it was, outside shoulder, inside shoulder. He was making the ball come out, and it was zipping out, and it was looking good. So I don't think the Seahawks should take Michael Penix in the first round. However, if he's there with that first, third-round pick we have,
that's a no-brainer.
We have to take him.
That's a no-brainer.
We have to gamble on the injury history because this guy, he just is different than everyone else that I saw throw.
I wish we had our second-round pick because I would gladly use a second-round pick on him.
Yeah.
I got to say,
we got Penix, yep.
Yeah,
I'm not necessarily happy about it, but I have to say J.J. McCarthy really impressed me at the Combine, and from everything I'm hearing, that guy might not make it out of the top 10, which is crazy because a month ago I thought he was like a 3rd or 4th round prospect. But I just maybe it just didn't show in the way Michigan ran their offense, but I did not realize that J.J. McCarthy had the kind of arm he has.
The thing I'm hearing about J.J. that I really liked hearing at the Combine was he was the quarterback cheerleader, if you will. I heard nothing but him constantly patting guys on the butt, great job. Like he was sort of acting like they were all a team, the quarterback prospects, and he was leading that charge. It wasn't Caleb Williams, it was JJ, and that right there shows a level of maturity to me, and I really like that in a quarterback because I think that's probably in the top 5 of best or most sought out attributes that I want from a quarterback is the maturity thing, and that's kind of why I've always liked Bo Nix, because Bo Nix I think reminds me a lot of Russell Wilson in that regard. Bo Nix, I think he went to Auburn and then to Oregon. And same with Russ. Russ was NC State, and then he was Wisconsin. Played a lot of games in college, and I mean, everyone makes fun of me, but they're both married. I like that in Bo Nix. It shows that he's kind of got a level of maturity to him.
They're both like 24-year-old.
He prioritizes, things that a normal 24-year-old I don't think would prioritize.
They're like 24-year-old, 30-year-olds coming into the NFL,
So-
which can be an advantage for sure. Because some
Right.
guys are 22-year-old, 16-year-olds when they come in.
Like
the league.
Drake May laughing at a pointless Twitter post about him being the sick. Whatever.
Yeah,
we don't even need
get
to speak
over
on
it, dude.
Yeah,
Like, who gives a shit?
yeah. You use that. Like, do what Tom Brady did and be like, okay, well then I'm going to show you that I'm not that, and do it. Don't just be like, laughing emojis because you think that you've proved something, because you haven't.
I gotta say, I think the biggest boomer bust quarterback in this class is Jaden Daniels, because if you watch his tape, for every amazing highlight reel level crazy throw or run, there's a play where he just like bazookas himself into a linebacker and gets like cartoonishly knocked backwards onto like his neck, and it's like, dude, it was 1st and 10. What? Why? What are you doing? Like,
well, also Jaden Daniels, he's very tall and very slender. So if he is bazookaing himself to all these NFL linebackers, he's gonna be the second coming of Anthony Richardson. And
Anthony Richardson was fucking built, or not was. He
still is
22.
Yeah,
he's fine. But like, what one half season of Richardson at a way stockier frame doing that, and he was out for the year by like week 7. So it's the NFL is just a different beast. They are much bigger, much stronger, much faster, and hit harder. So I don't know. I think this QB class is easily the best one we've had since we've started doing this podcast. Probably the best one since 2020, I'd be willing to bet. But there definitely are some question marks on all of these guys, except Caleb Williams, other than the fact that he paints his nails and is kind of weird. But as a player, I don't know how much tape of Caleb Williams you've watched, but it's seriously like insane how good he is.
He kind of reminds me of like a less scrambly Kyler Murray. There's a couple
that is a really good comparison. Like a giant Kyler Murray.
Yeah. Like there was a play, I can't remember, it might have been against Texas, where he had to like do a quarterback scramble, and it was 4th and 1, and then he ended up running like 50 yards for a touchdown and just outran everyone. So he's definitely got some pieces to his game where I'm like, okay, I can buy into the hype. The things that concern me are, the rumor of him wanting a stake in the team that drafted him, and
I was just gonna bring that up.
And it's just like, what, you think you're Michael Jordan or something? Because you're not. And I don't know. There were some things about him though that he did say at the combine that I liked. Like a lot of people were turned off by him not giving his medicals to all 32 teams, and I think that that's a smart move. Why would you give the Chiefs your medical history and all these things?
Any team outside the top 5, it's like it doesn't make any sense. And he knows that. He's not stupid.
And I kind of think that other future quarterbacks coming into the league will probably follow suit and see what he did and be like, yeah, that's actually a good point. Why would I give these teams an advantage in some form of that when I know I'm not going to go to that team? So there are some things where I'm like, that's pretty smart. Like, I wouldn't have thought of that, especially the things that he has said over the past year and the reactions he's had to games he's lost in college. I wouldn't think that he would be like on the ball like that, but maybe, who knows? I think that this kid's getting judged pretty hard because there was so much hype around him, and he still had another college season to play. And he didn't win very much at that in last season with the Trojans, so we'll see. It would be kind of nice to see the Bears get their first 4,000-yard passer.
Yeah, and I think they will have that with Caleb Williams. And I think, it's kind of a no-brainer to take him over Justin Fields, who, by the way, unfortunately for my fantasy team, I don't think Justin Fields is going to be a starter this year, because I thought, maybe the Falcons, maybe the Raiders, maybe the Vikings, maybe the Steelers, like those are all options. All those seats are taken besides the Vikings. I don't think the Vikings are going to trade for Justin Fields. I think they're going to take a quarterback at 11 when they draft.
I think they are too.
So it's really crazy how fast things changed. And, man, looking at this 2021 draft class that was heralded coming in with like 5 first-rounders, 3 of them now will have changed teams. One of them is like kind of good in Trevor Lawrence, and I don't know. It's just funny how a good draft class can produce like 4 busts in the first round potentially.
And it's just crazy because all of them were just so good in college. They were winners.
Yeah, Zach Wilson was amazing for BYU, and then he's so bad in the NFL.
Yeah. Oh, man. The Jets. Who knows what they're going to do. If Aaron Rodgers can have a healthy season, it's a big if, but...
Yeah, I mean, It could be cool because like I'm almost getting angry with them for just being so shitty so many fucking years in a row. Like it's like when the Browns were so bad for so long. It's like annoying. Like come on, like give these other teams a fight so we're not stuck with the Chiefs every year or with the Patriots every year.
I know
that was happening, but this will be the 14th year in a row if they don't make it this year that they haven't made the playoffs and.
Which I think that's pathetic because you only have to compete with 3 other teams to win your division. That's so much easier than like the Mariners not making the playoffs for 20 years because at least the formatting is different for the 2 sports. So it's like objectively much harder. It was much harder for us to not make it for 20 years. But if they go 20 years without making the goddamn playoffs, like sell the team.
Yeah, New York has never needed 2 teams, let's be honest.
No.
Or New Jersey, for that matter.
Yeah, New Jersey has 2 teams. And they don't even know to call themselves that.
Yeah, so I mean there's other stuff we could talk about from the combine, but it's already been 2 weeks and I kind of like don't care at this point. Like there was, the 40-yard dash record being broken by Xavier Worthy. That was kind of cool, I guess. But I feel like this year so many players opted out of the drills and like the 40 in particular, which is, let's be real, usually the most interesting one other than when like the offensive linemen are doing bench press because both of those things are just so like superhuman what they managed to do.
It's like it's watching a superhuman work their craft, and in this sense, it's running and lifting heavy weight.
I guess one last thing I'll say is this is the best receiver class I've ever seen overall. There's guys that are going to get drafted in the 3rd round that I really like, and in other years would maybe be like a 1st rounder, like Jalen Polk, for example, is a really good receiver.
Yeah, Jalen Polk, Jalen McMillan, Rome Odunze, and then you got the Texas boys.
Yeah, Adonai Mitchell.
And Adonai Mitchell.
He might not even be a 1st rounder, but he would be like in a weaker receiver draft, like maybe a top 15 pick. Like you're telling me if he was in last year's draft, would you take Quentin Johnston over him? I wouldn't.
No.
Yeah, he's got like the height, weight, speed, catch radius, all the good things. So this is a really good receiver class, and I know it's not a position of need on the Seahawks at all, but if they do draft a receiver in this class, like I'm not going to be opposed to it just because it'd be a good move.
It might be fun. I don't know if Xavier Worthy was a returner in college. I don't know that at all. But
I don't know either.
It might be interesting now that Tyler Lockett has matured and is essentially probably playing on his last year deal.
Probably.
It might be interesting to go after him, a little speedster that can return the ball and give us touchdowns on special teams.
Yeah, I think you'd have to use a pretty high pick after that combine performance. So It's doubtful, but an interesting move we made is we actually restructured D. Eskridge's deal.
I couldn't believe that.
I know. But maybe they're thinking he'll be, because he did have that one return against the 49ers that was pretty good.
He was the best player on the field in a Seahawks uniform.
When we got, like, fucking thrashed eating our Thanksgiving dinner, just, like, wishing to be dead. But, I mean, for sure it's his last season, I think, no matter what happens. But let's fucking use him. D. Eskridge, just eat your Wheaties, stay healthy, for fuck's sake, and just return kicks. Easy.
Yeah.
We don't even need him to do anything on offense. We have 4 receivers, including Bobo, that are better at that job than him, but he's a dynamic player. So I think he could be our receiver, but I don't hate the Xavier Worthy idea.
Who was our punt returner that always just did?
DJ Dallas.
He
would just, like, do everything in slow motion. Like, I like DJ Dallas, but, like, just...
Not as a punt.
Yeah, third down back.
Or he would just never... fair catch it. He would just let it bounce, and then we'd get it on the 4-yard line.
Yeah, let's get a quick.
Yeah, he was obsessed with that.
Let's get a quick player like D. Eskridge that let's just have him return punts, and I don't know.
We need some fucking tight ends.
Yeah,
that's a problem. I think we need to re-sign Jordan Brooks. I think Patrick Queen is going to be too expensive. Jordan Brooks is just as good of a player as him. So that's my preference there. Safeties. There's Justin Simmons sitting on the market. I wouldn't hate bringing him in, and then maybe have Jarek Reed as the backup, waiting in the wings to start next year. So there's not a lot we need to do to have me feeling good about this roster. I just hope we start making some moves because, we got almost $60 million in the bank and nothing that we've done with it so far.
Yeah, I have faith. I mean,
Yeah.
It's not, I'm not worried at all.
Yeah, I'm just impatient.
Well, that's pretty much all we got for this one. Unless you wanted any more stuff to add.
Trying to
Covered all
think
my-
of anything
boundaries.
funny that happened today that we haven't talked about. I think we covered all our bases, so yeah, I'm
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you on the next one.
Yep. See you next time.